The Locked On Podcast Network presents the College Sports Big 3 in 30. The three biggest stories in college sports. From our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. Bringing you the real story. Why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The College Sports Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest story in college sports.
It's time for war, and Ohio State isn't backing down. The Buckeyes are built for this moment.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This game is something that Ryan Day has been working towards since the last year's game ended, where the Buckeyes came up short for the fourth year in a row. Julian Sand, Jeremiah Smith, the Buckeyes got a lot of dogs on this team. And when I think about this game specifically, I think about Ohio State not only being ready for war, but also knowing they're not going to back down. Knowing that when they go into this game, come out of the tunnel into a sea of 110,000 Michigan fans, they're going to look out there, see enemy colors, and they're just going to add fuel to their fire they've been working on and cultivating all week long and making a lot stronger than it's ever been to take down Michigan. Now, it's going to take a four-quarter battle. This Michigan team is better than last year's team. I'm not going to try to sugarcoat it and say they're not. This Ohio State team could be better than last year's team. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say, well, no, last year's team was better just because they won a national championship. This year's team has the opportunity to accomplish three goals. The same three goals that they set out to accomplish at the beginning of the season. And the first one is beating Michigan tomorrow. And the fact that I think Ohio State right now is built for this moment with guys that have worked hard and that have grinded to simply have a shot to play in this game as a starter. Think about Caden Curry, for example. He's in his fourth year. He sat behind Jack Sawyer and Troy Malowau in his first 3 years in Columbus, and now it's his time to shine. A week ago, homie scored a touchdown. The referees didn't see it, didn't call it a touchdown. I'm not really sure what they were looking at because from multiple angles, it was clear that that ball went across the goal line. He says something else is coming. And maybe that something else is coming this weekend where he's going to go into enemy territory and look across the line and see an offensive line that is really good. I'm not going to try to lie about that either. The offensive line is one thing that's impressed me when I watched the film on Michigan. A true freshman quarterback in Bryce Underwood that has not seen a defense like Ohio State's. You got Caleb Downs, Alvaro Reese leading the charge, Sonny Styles, DeBlanco, then all the other players that are going to play on the Buckeyes defense tomorrow. They're all ready to go in there and shut down Michigan. I mean, Ohio State's banged up. Jeremiah Smith, Cardinal Tate, Lorenzo Styles Jr., Ryan, they said everybody was out there. We're talking about practice earlier this week. And so that's a good sign that guys that may have been banged up are now out there practicing, getting ready for this. Michigan has some injuries of their own. Justice Haynes, we talked about it. He's not going to be going. Jordan Marshall will probably give it a go. How effective will it be? We got to wait till tomorrow to find out. But Ohio State's defense can take advantage of the potential loss of Max Bredesen on Michigan's offense tomorrow, where Max Bredesen's not a guy that's going to get the ball, but he's very pivotal as a run blocker in an offense that is heavy on the run. You think about what Ohio State can do already when they're going up against a backup running back or up against a backup quarterback. Now you're losing one of your lead blockers that's very big in your run-heavy scheme. That's an advantage, and that's something that Ohio State can take advantage of. You work all year for this, and when you see somebody on the other side that you thought would be there, or what, you don't see them, it's time for you to see that loss and figure out how you can be more effective while that guy's not on the field. Speaking of not being on the field, there's a little bit of a belief in me that Jeremiah Smith and Cardinal Tate will not only play, but they'll be effective. Now, how effective will they be? That's literally TBD, to be determined, but their presence on the field, and let's just say they can go all four quarters. Maybe they're banged up. They might be 80% or 75%, whatever the case may be, they're out there. The secondary of Michigan is going to have to give those guys a lot of attention. And while you're giving Jeremiah Smith and Cardinal Tate attention, that's going to restrict how many resources you can devote to the run. You know whose running game has been getting better week after week after week? And a running back who is quietly inching closer to being a 1,000-yard rusher during his true freshman season? It's Bo Jackson. Bo Jackson's running ability has been a lot of fun to watch, and his growth this year is one thing we'll be remember about him for years and years to come. And I think I made a comment on Wednesday's show saying this is where legends are made. In this game specifically, legends are going to be made, or you could be a guy that can look back and say, well, he didn't get it done against the team up north. And I think in this game, well, we don't know how many receptions or targets Tate and Smith are going to get. Their ability to be out there is going to be effective for the safeties and the defensive backs, and maybe even the linebackers, to pull their eyeballs towards those guys on the outside, which will open up running lanes for Bo Jackson, Isaiah West, Donaldson, and Peoples. And I still think Ohio State is going to use all four running backs. How will they utilize them? We got to wait till tomorrow to find out. But the effectiveness of Smith and Tate is going to be huge. Now, let's just say Smith and Tate are ready to go to war and go all out, give it everything they got. And Ryan Day made a comment earlier this year that when it's time to put their foot on the gas, they're going to do it. I don't know if it's this game, but if it is, you have to believe that Smith is going to get his, that Tate's going to get his, and that's going to add to Ohio State's fire and desire to go to battle and go to war tomorrow. There's one thing I thought about when it came to Jeremiah Smith in this game specifically, and it wasn't something he said on Caleb Downs' podcast or anything like that. It was something I witnessed from him last year. Think back to last year's Michigan State game where Ohio State is on the road and Jeremiah Smith had the phenomenal one-handed catch on the right side that came from Devin Brown. He caught that one-handed catch, went to the end zone, and you saw this young man like he was ready to go to battle with every Spartan fan in the stadium. He stood there. He was fired up. He was like a man that was more juiced up than he's ever been. Well, we hadn't really gotten that moment from Jeremiah Smith this year. And it's not saying that he hasn't had big moments, but he didn't catch a touchdown pass against Texas. And you look at some of the other games, the bigger games Ohio State had, going into Illinois is not really the most hostile environment. And Jeremiah Smith, well, he's been great this year. But he hasn't had that ball, or he hasn't had that moment where you look at him and he is just, I'm not going to yell like I really want to right now. I don't want to burst your eardrums. But I think in this game, in this environment, where it looks like there's snow in the forecast, it is going to be cold, and that's going to play into the game plan that Michigan wants. Michigan wants the colder weather. Michigan wants the worse field conditions. They want all of that. But Ohio State has some buttons they can push. The Buckeyes have some plays they haven't ran yet. The Buckeyes have some coaches that are ready for this moment so they can put their stamp and their finger all over this game. Because like I said earlier, this is where legends are made. Those of you watching right now on the YouTube, you see the picture that I'm pointing at right now. And let me see. Right there. That's C.J. Stroud. Thinking about Stroud, he didn't win these games. He played in 2, started 2, didn't win them. The guy next to him, number 10, that's Troy Smith. And I think we can all right now remember the 06 game of the century, where Troy Smith made some big plays and Ohio State won 42-41 and cemented their spot in the BCS National Championship game. And I think we all remember what happened in 21 and 22, where Stroud probably could have won the Heisman if he won this game, but he didn't make the plays. He didn't get the job done, and he does not have a pair of gold pants as he was the starting quarterback in those games. And I think in this one, not only is Ohio State ready for war, they're not going to back down. Smith and Tate being on the field is a massive, massive benefit. Now, it's not concrete. Ryan Day has not come out and said they're going to play, but all roads are leading to them continuing to trend in the right direction to play in this game tomorrow.
The NFL season is rolling along, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for the weekend with this can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits how I like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the best way to add a little more energy to your Sunday. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
Haynes King, it's been cute, but time to shut up.
You are Locked On Bulldogs, your daily podcast on the Georgia Bulldogs.
This is the week. Y'all been waiting for a week. We can talk about Cupcake Week. But this week, oh my gosh, the good Lord above has smiled down upon you, has gifted you a long extended weekend, food and football, and the opportunity to lock your door once your family leaves and never let them return.
Yeah. It's important to put a TV in a bedroom with a lock on the door. You understand what I'm trying to say? For just such an occasion as this. But let's start with Georgia Tech. This is obviously the marquee game. It's what we're here to talk about. It's Friday afternoon. It's in Mercedes-Benz. It's 3:30 Eastern time. It's little brother. It's big brother. Their season's over. Our season's kind of just getting started.
Literally.
Last year, 8 overtimes, real casual. Nothing, no big deal about it.
I don't want to talk about it.
Lost our minds watching that game. And kudos to all parties involved. Kudos to Haynes King. Yep. Kudos to Brant Key. Kudos to the Georgia Tech staff for putting together a game plan.
Hobbling together a game plan with that team.
And they did it. And they did it. And they almost won the Super Bowl. They came up just short. And now this year they roll into town. And Clint, the line in this game at time of recording is 13.5 points. If you recall,
I do.
Your boy got it at 11.5.
Late
last week.
Late last week. We gave you a sneak preview of this episode a week ago.
I said, listen, whatever the number is, I'm going to be laying them. And then I checked the number. It was 11.5 right then. That was before last Saturday's game, and I laid it.
When you go to the window 3 times, you feel good about something.
Yeah. But now the line's moved on up to 13.5. You can still get it under 2 touchdowns if you want it on FanDuel right now. I do not expect that number to last until Black Friday.
No.
It's not going to go on sale on Black Friday.
No.
So if you want it under 2 touchdowns, you better come take it. Over under in the game is 59.5. So Clint, this is where the rubber meets the road. It's time for predictions. It's time for how the game's going to go. It's time for your thoughts on this game. Do you have a lock? And if so, what is it?
Yeah, the lock is absolutely giving points to Georgia Tech. This could be, look, don't bet Kirby. He's 0-13-1 in games in which he's favored by 40. But games like this has Kirby special written all over it. If this line was 18, I'd be laying the points.
Oh, wow.
Like, give me the dogs. Because here's how this game is going to go. Mike Bobo will be like the killer whale on Nat Geo with the seal, tossing it from one side of the iceberg to the other, waiting for it, just passing the time until he actually goes ahead and does what he wants. This defense doesn't scare anybody. The offensive line for Georgia goes up against anybody. Georgia Tech does not have the dudes up front. So even if Georgia just decided to come out and say, Gunner, you can't throw more than 10 passes today, we'd still have the same outcome. They're going to lean on this Georgia Tech defensive line, linebacking group. The DBs can't tackle. They're not physical. I mean, we've been effusive all week long on how bad this defense is. And we've told you, don't expect Georgia to do the kind of NASCAR racetrack feel that everybody wants, where every play should result in a touchdown, because again, that's not how Kirby Smart has a balanced game plan. He wants to go ahead and keep people fresh, keep guys in. He wants to go ahead and play complementary football. But this offense is just they're going to fall into points. They're not going to have to do that. They're going to be executing well and performing well in talent, but they're going to be falling into points. I do expect, if I'm going to call where Georgia Tech gets their points, I think it comes later in the game. Normally, Georgia has had a problem allowing early points.
Yeah.
And so I say we're going to give up a whole bunch of points. We've talked about the first score or maybe the first quarter. Look back at Tennessee, games like that. Georgia gives up points, and we're the one coming back. The script has flipped, Daniel, for this Georgia team. We are the ones who are going, we might be putting in some 2s in the fourth quarter. But that might be where we're at. And if that's the case,
you're laying 18 points in this game. So
I would
you certainly
do so. Happily do so. But with 13.5, I'm laying the points at absolute lock, stone cold lock. Give me Georgia handily winning Tech, and the defense holding Haynes King to maybe 10 points total, 14 points total in this game, because we know exactly what they're going to do. Our DBs are ready, and our linebackers and defensive line are ready. Daniel, do you have a lock in this game?
I mean, I liked it a lot better at 11 than I do at 13.5. I'll tell you that. I would not be laying. I would be taking Georgia Tech in a heartbeat if this line were 18. I'm not so ridiculous as you, as to say that. But
Sure.
here's what I will say.
Okay.
I think our defense is playing better.
Mm-hmm.
You look at Georgia's had 3 games all year. This total is 59.5. Georgia's had 3 games all year that have gone over 59.5. Okay. One of them was Mississippi State, 41-21, went over by just a few points.
Mm-hmm.
And Mississippi State, if you recall, a lot of garbage time in that game.
Lots.
The Ole Miss game, obviously, 43-35, and then the Tennessee game, 44-41. Those are the 3 games that Georgia's had that's gone over this total. And so immediately you see a number like 59.5, I think, under. I think this is and we've been talking all week, Georgia stops the run. None of those teams that I just mentioned were able to make a lot of progress running the ball against Georgia. Tennessee, Ole Miss, and Mississippi State did all of their damage to Georgia through the air.
Yep.
Can Haynes King and this Georgia Tech offense do that? I think they will to some extent. I think they're going to get some points. But I think Georgia scoring 35-38 in this game is as near to a lock as anything that I can possibly think of. Georgia's team total in this game is 37.5. Like, that's a really high number.
It's very high.
And I think that's where they're going to be. Do I think that Georgia Tech is going to score more than 17 points, more than 20 in this game?
Question.
That's what I'm going to have to do in order to lay this number. I think they're going to get 17. I'm not going to lock anything up because the margins then are just pretty tight. If we're looking at 35-20 as a very likely final score, then I'm not really looking to lock up 13.5. But I do like Georgia to win this game comfortably. To your point, I just don't think Georgia Tech does anything well enough to compete with Georgia. Georgia Tech's strength lines up perfectly with Georgia's strength. This
does.
Nobody's talking enough about how bad Georgia was at stopping the run last year, and that's why that game went to 7 overtimes.
It was not Haynes King arm. It wasn't wide receivers. It wasn't anything. It was the running ability of Haynes King, simply put.
It's not technically a stray when you aim straight at the person, but Buster Faulkner's about to catch one.
Okay.
If he had just run the ball one time in overtime, Georgia Tech would have won this game. And they could have been celebrating all year for winning the Super Bowl. But we went to 8 overtimes, and Georgia ran it once with Nate Frazier to win the game.
That's it.
And Buster Faulkner ran it 0 times in overtime.
You got too cute, Buster.
Real cute. Mike Bobo and Buster were getting into a cute off in that overtime session.
To be fair, you only have about 4 on the sheet. You've practiced 2-point plays. Like, to be fair.
And Kirby called timeout between all
every single one of them.
Georgia couldn't stop the run last year. That's why this game was close.
Yeah,
I really think you put Georgia Tech in a pickle when you stop the run, when you bottle them up. They're going to hit some passing plays on Georgia. Everyone does.
I think so,
but they're not going to be able to do it consistently enough. And I just see this Georgia offense moving the football, Clint. It's an easy win for Georgia.
Yes.
The NFL season is rolling along, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for the weekend with this can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits how I like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the best way to add a little more energy to your Sunday. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
We're just 2 days away from Texas and Texas A&M.
You are Locked On Longhorns, your daily podcast on the Texas Longhorns. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We are getting you set for Friday night's Lone Star Showdown. Texas and Texas A&M meeting in Austin for the first time since 2010. Of course, just the second year since the Longhorns joined the SEC, and so much is on the line this Friday night. Texas A&M fighting for a spot in the SEC championship game. The Longhorns fighting for a spot in the college football playoff. This game is always a big deal, but it feels even bigger here in 2025. Matt, I guess right off the bat, Texas A&M is 11-0, ranked number 3 in the country. It's the best season the Aggies have had in a long, long time. What's been the biggest key to their success so far?
I think it has to be their resiliency and their ability to win games in a bunch of different ways, right? They've won games that are defensive battles and really tough at the line of scrimmage. They've won games that are shootouts. They've had to come from behind from 27 points down. They've dominated opponents. So they've done it in a variety of ways, and they've been very resilient. I think that offensively, it's really started with Marcel Reed and his ability to get the ball to those receivers, and those receivers have been incredibly explosive in space and in getting downfield and making people miss. And it's just been an incredibly hard offense to stop, a very versatile offense, and that's really what's been driving them. And then on the defensive side of the ball, they've been very solid too. Cassius Howe leads the SEC in sacks. The secondary has improved. Torian York has been playing out of his mind, and they've had some players step up after some big losses from last season. So it's really just been an all-around effort in every way, shape, and form. And I think it's honestly Mike Elko's best coaching job as well.
Yeah,
he's really kept these guys focused.
Excuse me. Yeah, Matt, I'll be honest. I've been eating crow about Marcel Reed all season long, right? I mean, the step that he has taken from where he was in 2024 to where he's been all year in 2025. I mean, he's been the straw that stirs the drink for Texas A&M this season. Where has he progressed the most? Why is he so much better in year 2 versus what he was a season ago?
Well, I think that for one thing, the speed of the game has slowed down for him a whole hell of a lot. Last year, if you got pressure on him, he got happy feet. He kind of made mistakes. He would just tuck the ball and run. This year, I don't think that they've really necessarily simplified the offense, but things have slowed down. They figured out things that really work well for him. The receivers have honestly helped a lot, but he's making a lot better decisions with the football. His mechanics have cleaned up a whole heck of a lot. And he's been clutch. He's been making throws when it counts, and that's why he's in the top 4 for the Heisman right now. If I had to vote right now, he'd be in New York. I don't have a vote, unfortunately. Otherwise, he probably would get one from me. But hey, it is what it is. He's matured so much, and his teammates have bought into him so much that I think that it's really had a effect around the team in terms of just their belief in him and his ability to lead this football team, and it's been really big for them.
Yeah, Matt, you talked about a couple of those wide receivers. I mean, I've got portal envy with some of the guys that A&M brought in last offseason, KC Concepcion, Mario Craver. I mean, I thought those guys would be good. Aggie fans thought those guys would be good. I don't think anybody saw this coming. Those guys are 2 of the best wide receivers in college football. Their numbers tell the whole story. They have been difference makers. What has made them, obviously opposing defensive coordinators have known for a while how good those guys are, and they still can't stop them. What has made those dudes so explosive and electric all season long?
The speed, the versatility, the agility, the quickness, the route running, those guys both have it in spades, man. And it's really, really been impressive to watch. Texas A&M likes to run a lot of quick stuff offensively in terms of like the quick passing game. And if you give those guys an inch of space, they can make you miss and they can take it the distance. They've also been really good in running their deep routes and getting open down there. Marcel Reed has been accurate with the football for the most part, getting them the football in good positions to win against a lot of good passing defenses. I know the records say that Texas A&M has played 7 of the bottom 8 teams in the SEC, but some of those defenses have been really good, particularly against the pass. They've been able to succeed anyway. And again, the clutch factor with them has been unbelievable. it seems like every time Texas A&M needs to make a play in the passing game, Casey Concepcion and Mario Craver are right there. Ashton Bethel-Roman, a really young receiver, is making big plays. And, even Isaiah Williams has made a couple plays here and there. So they just show up when it matters. And that's kind of a theme with this team, is when they need it most, it happens. And everybody's doing it at a collective level, but especially those receivers. And the funny thing is, probably the two best transfer receivers in college football this season both play for the same team. A lot of people forget Texas A&M had another one at the beginning of the season, Micah Hudson, that decided to go back to Texas Tech. They could have had three, so it could have been even more explosive, which is kind of crazy to think about.
That's a scary thought right there. So what about this matchup, Matt? I know you've been paying a lot of attention to Texas throughout the season and definitely this week leading up to this game. The Longhorns have struggled defensively, especially in the secondary over the last month of the season. Do you think that's an obvious advantage, the A&M passing offense going up against the Texas passing defense, with what we've seen from both of these teams here down the stretch?
I think it is an advantage for Texas A&M, and I'll tell you why. The games that I've watched of Texas over the last few weeks, really since the Kentucky game, I feel like they've been playing a lot of soft coverage and giving these receivers on the opposing offenses a lot of space, particularly on the opposite side of Texas's best corner, Manny Muhammad, and that's been eating them alive, especially against Georgia. They were giving them way too much space, and the Georgia receivers were catching the ball and turning it into yak yards and getting explosive plays. And they've also had kind of very questionable eye discipline at the safety position over the last couple of weeks, and both of those things are things that Texas A&M has taken advantage of against their opposition all season long. So in that particular scenario, yes, I do think Texas A&M has a pretty big advantage there. And if I'm not mistaken, Texas is going to be starting a true freshman corner opposite of Muhammad this week in Cade Phillips. So how is he going to react to going up against a KC Concepcion or a Mario Craver? How is he going to handle that kind of route running and that kind of speed? We'll have to see, but it's certainly an advantage for Texas A&M in that realm.
Yeah, Texas probably starting two freshman corners this weekend. Now, one of them is Grayson Littleton. He's started every game since week one. But, Cade Phillips was third on the Longhorns in snaps in their most recent game against Arkansas. So he has kind of taken over as that number two corner opposite of Manny Muhammad. And if I'm Colin Klein, look, I know you trust both of those receivers, but whoever's going up against the true freshman, that's the guy I want to go to pretty much all night long on Friday. So that's a matchup that I, as a Texas fan, am definitely nervous about. What about the Aggie run game, Matt? I mean, Le'Veon Moss, Mike Elko told us on Monday that he's probably not going to play, considering he's missed the last 5 games. Maybe I should believe him, but part of me thinks maybe there's a little gamesmanship going on with this rivalry. Ruben Owens sat out against Samford. Sounds like he's going to play. EJ Smith sat out, easy for me to say, against Samford. Sounds like he's going to play. But where is A&M at with its run game in terms of health going into Friday night?
Well, it's really nice to play Samford in that part of the season, right? Last week, because you get an opportunity to rest some guys. Ruben Owens is going to be good to go. I don't think Le'Veon Moss is going to play. My guess is that it's not gamesmanship, but you never know with this rivalry what things might bring. But my guess is you'll see a heavy dose of Le'Veon Moss, Amari Daniels, maybe some of the true freshmen, Jamarion Morrow, and some EJ Smith as well. They've got a really deep running back room outside of Moss. The difference is when they do have Moss, he's the power back. He's the hammer and that runs in between the tackles and can get you the tough yards that you really need, right? These other guys, they can do some of those things, but they really thrive in the more outside zone running game and in the more explosive types of running plays, the speed, particularly Ruben Owens, who's one of the most explosive running backs in the country. So it'll be a little bit different in terms of what Texas A&M fans are used to throughout the majority of the season with Le'Veon Moss, but they have a lot of confidence in Aggie land about Ruben Owens, and really the emergence of Jamarion Morrow has been huge for them as well. But they're 4 deep at the position, and they can beat you in a lot of different ways. Plus, Marcel Reed, as good as he's been throwing the football this year, his best asset might be his legs. So they can run it at you in a bunch of different ways.
Yeah, last question for this opening segment, Matt. I kind of want to talk about that matchup, right? Going into Texas's most recent game against Arkansas, the Longhorns had a top 5 rush defense in America. Arkansas had a lot of success against Texas, especially in the first half, right? The Longhorns kind of cleaned it up in the second half as Texas sort of built their lead and kind of put that game away. But Arkansas ran it for 188 yards against the Longhorns. That's the most Texas has given up in an SEC game all season. Obviously, like Marcel Reed, Arkansas has a dual threat quarterback in Talon Green who was able to have success on the ground. How are you feeling about this matchup? Is there an obvious advantage when it comes to the Aggie Rush O against the Texas Rush D?
Yeah, I think that part of that has to do with the absence of Anthony Hill last week for Texas. I think that played probably a pretty big role in that. But also, Texas has had some issues with their their run fits over the last couple of weeks. Georgia ran it against them pretty effectively. Everybody's been able to run it against them pretty effectively over the last couple of weeks. So, I think Texas A&M is probably better equipped than any team they faced this year to run the football against them with their offensive line. They're 6 deep across the offensive line. They've got guys that can play in multiple positions. Armaj Reed Adams is one of the best guards in the country. So this game is really going to come down to who wins in the trenches, and I think that Texas A&M has an advantage offensively in the trenches for sure. And they should be able to get a push against that Texas offensive line, and I think that that's going to play a major difference. They're really good at dealing with stunts and run blitzes. They're really good at pulling for outside runs. They're really good at just the power running game. So I would expect Texas A&M to have some success on the ground, if not, maybe not to the level that Arkansas did without Anthony Hill in there, but I do think that they're going to be pretty dang successful in that area.
Yeah, and Texas linebacker Ty Anthony Smith will miss the first half of Friday's game after he was ejected in the third quarter against Arkansas because of a targeting penalty. So Anthony Hill likely coming back from that broken bone in his hand, but the Longhorns still a little bit shorthanded, at least for the first 30 minutes.